Welcome to Climate Quickies, bite-sized nuggets of climate goodness from our TEDxLondon experts in under 5 minutes.
In this week's Climate Quickie from Climate Curious by TEDxLondon, we're talking about climate activism with the founder of the subscription platform putting money behind young activists, the Hero app.
Mauricio Porras joins us to share why climate activists don't actually want to be heroes. But if no one else is willing to wear the cape, what else is a guy to do? I'm joking, but on a serious level, it's not fair that young climate activists have the weight of the world on their shoulders. They're risking their civil liberties or worse, and on top of all of that, they aren't even getting paid.
Mauricio is working to change all that with his app, Hero. Let's hear about it, and remember,
stay curious.
So we've had some pretty awesome activists on this podcast over the last 2.5 years. And I think many of them young activists, and each of them has talked in their own way about the difficulties of doing this work, both psychologically, financially, personally, the barriers that they face, all of the different kinds of things. And one thing that has struck me in all of those conversations is that, you know, these young people or older people who are activists have very much, this is their life's path. Like they have had to make decisions to not to do other things that maybe they were interested in or love to do this work, which is why I'm super excited that we get to have this conversation with Mauricio.
I mean, this conversation feels timely because everybody is broke. It's a cost of living crisis out here. The streets are cold. No one's making any money. And you're right.
You should all know that Ben is dressed in head to toe pearls. But yes,
well, you know, I made these. We'll talk about that another time, another episode. But
let's get into it because welcome, Mauricio. Thank you for coming here.
Thank you for having me.
If you can just tell people a bit about Hero and what it is in case people haven't heard about it, because I'd like to start with that work.
Sure. So Hero is the first climate platform powered by citizens. It allows you to fund the top climate campaigners, upcoming campaigners doing what we call the most important job of our time. And it allows you to fund them directly. Just like other platforms, for example, like Patreon, where you fund artists, this is your platform to fund the top campaigners in the world to enact policy change from the ground up.
Yeah, so for those who haven't come across this on their feed yet, tell us how it works.
Yeah, so you know that there's thousands of climate campaigners. There's a whole new generation that wants to take action for their future and our future. And the way we work is that we have vetted the most promising upcoming climate campaigners through an independent board. So we've worked a lot on the governance of Hero to strive for transparency. So we have an independent board. Campaigners apply all over the world to Hero to be in the platform, and they're vetted. And the main aspect that we take a look at is the fact that they have a track record of non-violent advocacy. And that they're focused on policy change. We really want to push, the bar up in terms of policy change, where we see that is where we can have the biggest impact.
Important. Because policy change is not. It's not cool, is it? I mean, speaking honestly, it doesn't feel like the coolest thing of all time.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is it's not just you and your mates. Like, you have vetted these people. You have a way that people get onto your platform. That feels very thorough, but I do think what you're saying, Ben, around policy change is interesting because I worked in policy change for a bit.
I mean, it is cool. It is cool.
But what I mean is that it's hard.
It's complex.
It's complex, but actually one of the things I found was that it's hard to get funding for it.
Right.
Because people want to fund things where they can see the change right away. They want to fund like a shelter or a thing, like a thing. They don't necessarily understand how to fund policy change.
Yeah, no, and it has been a challenge because we've wanted to disrupt the way that you approach climate action. So Hero has like several components that make it very unique. For example, I was having a conversation the other day saying like, what I love about Hero is that when you think of climate action, you think about saving, tigers or planting trees or coral reefs. But with Hero, you can actually support humans. Like you can have a direct connection with those and support their journey from the ground up.
So is this a way for climate activists to get a salary, because I feel like the thing that stops, the big barrier, is that people are often working for months or years at a time with no real income stream, which ends up looking like a lot of sacrifice. And I think that's probably one of the things that we don't really talk about. It's just this expectation that people will do this work for free because they believe it's important, or because they care about it, or because they're good people. But actually, like, the practicalities of that are, in lots of cases, unbearable.
And then you lose all that amazing people. We're seeing 5 years ahead.
Yeah.
And thinking like, okay, this 21-year-old, 22-year-old campaigners, they're all in today, but we still live in a capitalistic system. So as you said, you need to pay the rent, you need to pay the bills, you need to make a living out of your career. So how do we engage or keep them engaged in the long run? Because we have 7 years to bring down global temperature to 1.5, and we cannot afford to lose them in 2 years. So who then secures those policies? Yeah, we want to empower people to empower these campaigners from the ground up. They're working in their local communities, and then they go to the global stage. We've seen various examples of this. Elizabeth Watuti, for example, in Africa, she started in her local community. Now she's negotiating at COP, the loss and damage agreement, for example. Adelaide, organizing in Belgium, and now she's literally holding politicians accountable at the EU level. So these are the stories that we want to multiply by the thousands. We actually have a goal in the next 5 years, with the help of citizens, to fund the next generation of 10,000 climate campaigners. So just imagine what the world could look like if we had 10,000 Gretas, 10,000 Liz Watutis, and so on. It would look totally different.
How much does a subscription cost? Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, it starts at €6. So 2 coffees, a couple of beers,
really?
a month.
In London, that's one coffee.
In London, that's half a coffee.
In New York, it's definitely half a coffee.
Yeah, but when you put it in perspective, so what we're trying to do, because generally how this works is you get, big chunks of funding, and then you fund, and it's a process that you just described. You have all these applications and all this sort of bureaucracy, and it doesn't reach everyone. With this, it's €6, but if we get 10,000 people to put €6, 20,000 and so on, then it becomes an interesting amount to provide a stable income to all these campaigners.
Do you have? I know you said 10,000 campaigners in circles, right? Is that I understood that correctly?
That's the goal.
That's the goal, right? No, that's not. That's like that's the vision. That's the 5 year plan.
Yeah.
What do you also have a vision on where you want to get to in terms of how much you're able to bring in for those people? Like, do you have
how many citizens are involved?
Yeah.
I mean, millions of citizens. I think. I mean, when you look at the numbers of citizens in the world. Our goal is to reach out to everyone. Yeah. I think everyone has the power to do something, and what we're striving for is to make it as easy, as seamless as possible for people to just say, okay, I care about climate. Sometimes I don't have the time. I have also my career, which I love, and it's totally fine. But this is a very simple way to just, with your phone, literally €6 a month, have a very outsized impact.
This is so interesting. I feel like a proper venture capitalist sitting here. I feel like I'm being pitched to. This is so good.
Right. This is actually about your own self-interest. Right. If you were smart, you would be like,
invest.
I want to have a future. Can I? Just like you invest in your pension, or you invest in other kinds of things. Maybe it's like people go to the gym to invest in their bodies so that they have a body when they get old. I have not invested enough in my knees.
Me either.
But it is that mindset shift. I think that's really actually is super cool. Because I do think that part of I think the passiveness that people might feel when they give. I feel it. Like, I'm someone who's super passionate about causes, and sometimes I feel like I just lose my energy when I'm just giving to something, and then it's like, oh, I've done. It's like given and it's gone. But when I feel like I'm investing in something, when I feel like I'm engaging in something, I have such a different energy.
We we have put a lot of mind and thoughts into how to put this in the, this power, to give this power a full tool and put it in the hands of everyday citizens.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we want this tool to be a tool for people and by people, right? So it's not about just, getting, the certain funds, to just scale this and get the funding. It's actually about involving the citizens in the whole journey. Because when they're supporting these campaigners, they're not just giving. They're actually, as you said, investing. They become part of their journey. Right. So, you can fund an upcoming climate campaigner that you haven't heard about in the news yet, and then seeing their progress in the next 2 years when they have the tools, the funding, and seeing them at the global stage. That was because of you.
It does feel like it's literally a couple of clicks away, the difference between me doing nothing and me having a massive impact.
And feeling a feeling of agency.
Yeah. Feeling like you are able to do something, like you're making choices and decisions that are benefiting the world, right?
HeroCircle.app. That's app. Yeah. €6 a month. Outsized impact, amazing climate campaigners.
Thanks for listening to this quickie.
This episode was created by our superstar podcast team at TEDxLondon. Until next time,
stay curious.